thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Boy, this Mercury retrograde, and I don't even, it's not negative. I never look at any of the planets, going in another direction as being negative. But today, Facebook been feeling it. Boeing Airlines been feeling it. Instagram been feeling it, And I'm like, you better get on the wave right here and just be able to ride this thing and don't take things too seriously. And just be able to laugh through it, man. You know what I mean? Like, just like reflect. I keep telling everybody, like, that's part of the formula is reflection. But I'm just happy and grateful everybody could tune in today, Coach K Radio. And tonight's topic is going to be crazy. Life after death, becoming an ancestor. Whew. I wanted to do a video on this before the show started. I wanted to talk about it, and Facebook was like, you ain't getting on here talking about this today. What you doing? You're just going to have to just see how many people show up without our aid. You better be glad we let you post one, I got one post in on Facebook all day today. And I was like, yo, y'all bugging. I'm trying to conduct some information and transfer some wisdom and keep expanding the platform, but it just did not go that way. So it's going the way it's going, but we still gonna rock. I'm surprised I even was up in this joint on time. So tonight is gonna be a barn burner, as usual. I never doubt. I don't have to. I remember my daddy told me one time, and he's an ancestor now. He said, don't ever worry nor wander. Don't ever worry nor wander. I was like, wow. I wasn't catching it when he was dropping jewels like that then. But now I'm like sitting on that information, and I'm saying, okay, I really get where you was coming from. So big shouts out to my pops, Arthur Lee Carter. The show definitely going out to him and everybody who got big-time ancestors on here. When you come on the show, certainly please give a big shout-out to your ancestor or a couple of your ancestors if you like. If you want to press 1 and come on at any time in the show, that's all you got to do. The call-in number is 917-889-3803. But without further ado, there's no way I could do this show by myself. But I don't want to do it by mine. And he just been with me all 9 episodes. We've been together for a couple of years as far as just, drinking from the same cup, trying to get up the same mountain, following very similar spiritual paths. He's a father. He's an architect. He's an engineer. He's an artist. He's an actor. He's definitely a sorcerer extraordinaire and many other things. Y'all put y'all hands together for my man, Fire Wapa.
Woo. Man. Hey man, your introductions get more elaborate every week. I feel like I really got to live up to all of this now. Jeez.
You do. You absolutely 1,000% have to. That's
what's up. Yeah, that's what's up, man.
What's going on with you today, man? You all right?
That's a lot. It's a lot of solar flares, Mercury retrograde, and a lot going on. But I'm thankful and I'm grateful to be here. It's a lot happening, though. It's a lot happening. They trying to wake woolly mammoths up, and they don't reverse time on us. I don't know if you peeped that out of the news. These quantum physicists use a quantum computer to reverse time. That was just in the news, bro. I'm sure.
At this point in the game.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, at this point in the game, it's really hard for them to surprise me. I've been waiting on, like physical extraterrestrials for over 20 years to pop up. So, and then now that I might have mentioned with this psilocybin and this, the mycelium network and Star Trek, like, so what? I mean, what else are y'all going to do,
Right.
Like a woolly mammoth, that's all? How many was it? Did they catch them having sex? Did they bring them down to Manhattan?
I don't think it went that far. Not yet, anyway. Not that they telling us.
And what about the time going back? What about the time getting switched up? What happened with that?
They took some quantum computers and they used the qubits inside the quantum computer and reversed them, so they made them complex, and then they went back to making them simplistic. To put it simply, and in other words, they reversed time and they announced that to everybody, and that's never been done, at least not in the public venue, I don't think. So, yeah, time travel. Get ready for it.
I am, but the big thing, I'm very happy that those distractions ain't gonna keep us from what we doing over here talking about these another blasting off from Earth into the multiverse episode number 10. You know what I'm saying? So I was talking about everybody get up on your feet for episode number 10 up in this feet. We ain't talking about just 1, 2, 3, or 4. Y'all can do all of that if you want, but we just gonna take out the bomb. Boom! With the glass explosions, all of that. So tonight is Life After Death, Becoming an Ancestor with Kalinde Iyi. 917-889-3803 is the call-in number. Honoring your ancestors, cool. We got that. But what about becoming an ancestor? What are you doing right now, the best possible ancestor that you can possibly be? What's your walk? What are going to be your responsibilities? What tools will you take with you? What type of mind will you take with you? What type of mind will you leave behind? What skills will you take? What wisdom? Whose altar will you end up on, and why? Will you be up to the task? Will you be taken care of, or will you take care of? What type of ancestor will you be? Inquiring minds want to know, and tonight, international scholar and master teacher Kalinde Iyi of the Tamarian Institute joins Coach Khayr from Firewater to talk about life after death, becoming an ancestor. We're going to get into some serious decoding tonight again, episode 10, and take you to a place you may not have been, so get your mind right for a fantastic journey. As usual, this will be an envelope-pushing conversation, and there's going to be tons of extras. Pen and paper is a must. You got any expectations about this show tonight, brother?
Well, I have a feeling that when it comes to the ancestors and the afterlife, that it's going to be a few bubbles bursted in this conversation, and it's going to be some megaton bombs dropped as far as unknown jewels and gems that we were unaware of. I know that much.
Exactly. So if you're listening live right now, and especially if I sent you an invite, take that, the same thing I sent you, copy it, and then send it to 3 or 4 people because they want to hear about this. One of the things Kalinde had talked, he had just touched on ancestors maybe like a couple episodes ago, but I just been thinking really on a plane of, he talked about we could go and get in contact with an ancestor. But did we even have any of the people who we call ancestors now? Like, how were they prepped? Like, they weren't prepped. Like, most of our ancestors was into Christianity, or they were some type of a result of the diaspora being misplaced here in America, or totally forgot who they were, and then they die, go to another realm, and it's like shock. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if anybody's ever seen Astral City, but it's a story about a brother dying and him having to come to grips with it's not no streets of gold, and it's not necessarily like hell, and it was still hospitals over there, and he could still learn over there, and he could still like interact with the people that were still here, but he was totally not prepared. And I was like, I want to talk about, and I want to hear Kalinde's take on becoming an ancestor, because Kalinde was like, yo, I'm just getting ready because I ain't coming back. And I was like, man, who altar is Kalinde going to end up on? I don't see him going nowhere no time soon. I look at him as an immortal. I ain't going nowhere no time soon. But when I do look at my ancestor altar and what I had to do to like get them straight, that's like a big it's like a big conversation right now. Everybody's talking about ancestor altars, burning ancestor money, taking care of your ancestors. But I think most of them didn't even know like how to do, like what could they do on this side to prepare for that side, for the journey continuing. because they thought it was over. They didn't believe in reincarnation, or they didn't think they would be back, or things like that. And then they end up in your dreams, and they need you to help them and things like that. Feed your ancestors and show them respect. Why do they need food? Why they can't take care of themselves? So, and what kind of ancestor am I going to be? Am I going to be a derelict ancestor where somebody going to be pushing me around in a cart, or am I going to be popping collars? You know what I'm saying? I want to continue to be an explorer, to continue traveling the multiverse. So that's kind of where the show came at, Fire. What do you think about that?
My major question is, do we have to wait to greet and communicate with the ancestors? Can I do that now, or do I have to wait till I leave here? You might be able to go speak with them in person now on some Black Panther heart-shaped herb and go talk to your ancestors in real time. I don't know. Maybe we find out.
That's
tonight.
a good point. That's a good point that you make about Black Panther, because in that scene, he knew him talking to his ancestors was a part of his preparation for being in his daddy's shoes. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, talking to his father, he knew when he died, that's where he would be. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and get into it. Without further ado, y'all get up on your feet and put your hands together for Baba Kalinde IEU. Greetings, Baba. Thanks for joining us tonight for episode 10. Thanks a lot. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How's everybody doing out there? I hope everyone is doing well and moving forward. Well,
yeah,
dealing with the subject this evening, ancestors, and what that means and how we commune with them and things like that, and we'll get into that to actually let folks know what the knowledge base is. First and foremost, anytime you talk about the ancestors, everyone that is dead is not an ancestor. That's number one. If you were not a righteous person, a person who served the community, a person who was good to their family, a person who was, just a worthless nothing here, you're not elevated to the level of ancestor. And to keep the ancestors in this particular time construct, you have to mention the ancestor's name, and you give them drink and at certain times food, and you mention their names. That doesn't mean that they cease to exist, like the old gods, different levels of gods. If you didn't mention the god's name, they would eventually disappear. And basically it's the same thing here. If you don't feed them, talk to them, bring their name up, you release them into the full plenum of the next area. And then also the ancestors live within you. They are part of your DNA, part of your cellular structure, part of your spirit. So you're always in contact with them. Number one, because you're dealing with, Brother was talking about quantum computers. You're talking about quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is that subatomic particles that have been in congruence with one another, no matter what the distance, no matter where, they're always in contact with one another. So you came from your mother and father. You came from your grandparents, great-grandparents, all the way back. So each one who led on that DNA, you're in contact with. You're in what they call interaction. So by giving energy, by invocation, by being able to call their name, you keep them in your environment on a quantum level to be able to be part of your existence. Now, one thing is dealing with the mushroom, which we've been dealing with for 9 episodes. This is the 10th. The mushrooms are what gave us the ability or understanding that there was an afterlife, that there was a something more than just what we exist in here in a materialistic, sort of way. Because when man and woman were first here on the earth and had lost their memory and was at a very primitive state, what happened is that they were just locked into their physical environment. In other words, the most important things were dealing with food and shelter and protection from predators and things like this. So when somebody died, at first they just laid there. Eddie, get up, Eddie, get up. Eddie didn't get up and didn't move. Then Eddie started stinking. So we took Eddie and put him far away, and the animals ate him, the wild dogs and the, hyenas and things like that ate his body. So once we started and encountered the mushrooms, and we had a chance to know that there were other levels of existence far beyond the one that we are embedded in now, three-dimensional, five-sense reality. Once we understood that, the mushrooms and other entheogens that we encountered later, what they did was give us a ability to be able to see, an ability to be able to act with novel beings and also ancestral beings. In other words, your mother and grandparents and other beings who had left the physical plane and are now existing on another level. So the mushrooms were the first connector to the ancestral realms that we had. Being able to traverse through different dimensions gave us the understanding of, like I said, there being more, that there were things that were outside of the normal reality of which we exist. There were creatures and those people who had left, who were in the family, who had left, who had died. We encountered them in those particular realms. That's one of the primary utilizations of the hallucinogens and the traditional and ancient ways of utilization of these particular things. Now, in the modern sense, we, in many cases, don't have those access points because, number one, we don't take enough. And since the mushrooms have invaded themselves or included themselves in modern times from the 1950s onward, most people who have taken them have timidly only taken small amounts. They didn't take enough of the compounds to be able to access those realms of the ancestors because they were taking small doses for some type of medical malady or healing and things like that, because Maria Sabina, who was the curandero who had the sessions with Gordon Wasson and then others later on, she was not part of an ancient tradition of mushroom shamanism or whatever. She was a little girl in the pastures eating the mushrooms because she was hungry, and the mushrooms taught her how to utilize the mushrooms for healing, because somebody in the family or in the village or in the neighborhood got sick. She was eating mushrooms, and she started. She gave suggestions on curing and things like that. So it led her to be a curer or a medicine woman who helped people by the people ingesting mushrooms, by she ingesting mushrooms, and she deal with healing. But then the people from the United States, after Gordon Wasson's article in Life magazine, started flooding into Oaxaca, and it was to experience the mushrooms, but to get, many of them were to get a healer. And then anthropologists would come, and psychiatrists and psychologists would come to look at these things to be added to their practices. Even in the 60s, they were saying that, a psychedelic trip is worth 100, sessions with your therapist. So they wanted these things as medicines, and the way to get grants is not to say, oh, I want to traverse the multiverse and see novel creatures and go to exotic galaxies and planets and be able to access the ancestors and things like that. No. A anthropologist who wants to study these people says that, these are curing techniques and it's part of culture. You have quaint people with colorful costumes, and they have exotic language and stories and songs that they sing, and this is something that we need to revert to preserve for the sake of humanity and diversity and all these different type of things. So they called it medicine. So that word medicine just kind of included itself into the vocabulary of the early psychedelic people who were trying to not only get their grants, but being able to utilize this for their practices. So it became medicine. So most of the people that are taking psychedelics are doing it for some type of psychedelics for some type of trauma, post-traumatic stress disease, anxiety, dealing with things like people who may have fears of certain things or certain places and things like this. So they look at it as medicine, not as an explorative tool, not as a way to access the ancestors, because those things take doses that the average person just don't do, just don't take. They are dealing with people who take, say, psilocybin or LSD or salvia or one of the cacti and things like this, but a lot of it is at rave parties where, you are synergizing the glow sticks or the music and things like that. They're not deep travelers into the multiverse trying to contact things and entities and ancestors on the other side. Many who go into these places heavily and hard and try to deal with these types of things. The rituals that have come about in modern time, because ritual is modern. Ritual is not ancient. You went to the place eye to eye, hand to hand, mouth to ear. You didn't have this never-weary ritual that supposedly puts you in the frame of work of contacting your ancestors and things like that. It was done through the entheogens. And I don't care what African or what ancient system from Greece or from Australia or from China or whatever, they all had entheogens. And the people used those entheogens to have access to these different levels of existence, of power, of the way to be able to access these ancestors that have passed on. So people, when we talk about mushrooms and we talk about ancestors are part of us and they're part of the multiverse. The mushrooms are here for us to be able to be able to deal with those types of things. That's why when I talked about the weapons, when I talked about knowledge, the ancients, the old guard, would go into these places for knowledge and learning from the ancestors. If you had, just like if you had a martial arts teacher, and that martial arts teacher has passed on before he gave you the secret technique, like in the old 1970s, early 70s Kung Fu movie. You didn't get the last piece of the drunken monkey, or you didn't get the last piece of the eagle claw and things like that. You would then be left a pot of mushrooms that your teacher left you to note. Pour hot water in this tea, make it, and come visit me, and I'll show you in one night the last secret technique for the drunken monkey to be able to defeat the eagle claw guy, and I'll show you the last thing from the other side. It's no different. It's no different when Luke is, he don't know which way to go, what to do, and then all of a sudden Obi-Wan, who is now an ancestor, one who's passed on, comes out in his auric form, the form of his aura, his light body or whatever, and say, Luke, you got to do this, you got to do that. You must go to the Dagobah system and find my teacher Yoda. So he goes to the Dagobah system. He goes there looking for some tall, blonde-haired old man or old white-haired man who is knowledgeable and all that kind of stuff. But this little green lizard guy comes up and tries to take his food or something like that, and eats the food and says, "This ain't no doggone food. This is GMO stuff." He said, "How you get so big eating this stuff?" So, of course, he studies with Yoda. Then, at a point when Yoda ain't no more, it's him and Obi-Wan from the ancestral realm communicating with Luke. And then when Darth Vader died, he's communicating with Luke from the other side because he been turned back to the light side and all that kind of stuff, So this is the same thing here, that if you're not a person of worth to the community and things like that, it's just like I talk about sometimes in my lectures that in certain places in Africa they have a black mushroom. Not the red mushroom, not the white mushroom, not the blue mushroom, not the termite mushroom, not the panther mushroom, because there is a panther mushroom that is a martial mushroom. It's called the Amanita pantherina mushroom. It's utilized in Japan to bring the Tengu Taki, which is the mountain goblins, to come down and descend and teach martial arts, because the Tengu Taki, Tengu is the actual being, Taki is the mushroom, and when they take the mushroom, that's how Aikido separated itself from Akijitsu. That's how ninjutsu was born, by eating the mushrooms and becoming the dark Japanese knights called the ninja. Many different sword systems were done, and the higher level practitioners would go to the Koriyama mountain there in Japan and eat the mushroom. And these mountain goblins, they were bird-headed, with wings humanoids, with bird feet, who would come down and teach martial arts. And in Africa, the panther mushroom would be taken to be able to include the panther in your genetic code to open up the martial systems inside of your genetic code, and that's where the whole Black Panther thing comes about. So when they said the purple herb or whatever, yeah, well, that's Marvel extrapolating into some other stuff. Let's not make it a brown mushroom. Let's make it purple and shaped like a heart and all that kind of stuff. But no, the entheogens are part of the martial systems all over the world, be it Pinjat Flat, be it the Korean systems, Japanese systems, Australian systems, be it the dealing with the Knights of the Round Table, all of that kind of stuff. It all has entheogenic connections to it. So if you want to deal with the ancestors entheogenically, it takes very high doses in the knowledge base of what we do in the modern time. They would be considered high, but they're not really considered high in the ancient world, because in the ancient world, you know, it was darkroom technology. It was dosing mushrooms over a period of time. It was mega dosing at the peak of the darkness technologies to be able to move continuously into the realm of the ancestors, of which they're trying now to, they're calling for people to join the study. David Luke in London and others are putting together a extended DMT trip, meaning that they're going to utilize a anesthesia technique by an anesthesiologist to be able to deliver DMT to the brain at a measured dose over time. In other words, keeping it at a certain level. The DMT that's being put into the brain, so that you will be in a DMT trip, not 15 minutes, but hours. And it could go on actually for days if that was so, if that's what we wanted. But, you know, for being in a DMT trip for several hours is a challenging thing. It is it's something that will challenge a person, because you're going to be locked up in there for 3, 4, 5 hours in DMT land. But we've had the technology for millions of years to be able to do that, because we've had high-dose psilocybin magic mushrooms. Magic mushrooms are DMT. Regardless of what people say, the people who are I don't want to say that. The people who are in these fields and in these realms who have not taken high-dose mushroom, but only talk about that mushrooms are not as powerful as DMT at the doses that they are taking, mushrooms are not as powerful as DMT. But when you breach the 25 dry grams, mushrooms are indistinguishable from a DMT trip, only you have to be in there for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Now, with this DMT, if you're in there 2 and 3 hours, at some point, if they feel like you may be having a difficult time, they can almost immediately stop the DMT to the brain, because all they have to do is do whatever the anesthesiologists do. I'm not an anesthesiologist, so I don't know. Be able to, turn it off or turn it down, and then within 10 minutes or so, you'll start coming out. But with high-dose mushrooms, once you're in there for a couple of 2.5 hours. So once you eat it, you're there, you're in, and you have to wait until it dissipates and goes away. So accessing the ancestors, there are other compounds that we use in Africa to be able to access the ancestors. I was talking about the black mushroom. That is not the blue mushroom, but the black mushroom. The blue mushroom also has a martial component to it. All of the mushrooms, the red mushroom, Amanita muscaria mushrooms that were prolific in the Sahara when there were trees there prior to the Younger Dryas impacts, which created desert, and the trees got disturbed, and of course, eventually the trees went away because of the desert. But prior to that, there were Amanitas in northern and northwest and northeast Africa. That's why, you know, they were in places like Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon, and conifer trees and things like that. When they were in the Sahara, when it was green, you had those mushrooms there. But when the desert came in, they became scarce. But we know this because in ancient Kemet, they were identified. The different mushrooms were identified. The Amanita muscaria, Amanita pantherina, and the psilocybe mushrooms were identified in Kemet through different sources inside of looking at Medu Neter hieroglyphics, and also through different carvings and things like that. So we knew that they had those type of mushrooms in ancient times. But the black mushroom was an interior African mushroom, and it is only taken by elders. You have to be at least like 70 years old. But since in Africa they don't have, well, they didn't in ancient times. They didn't have, like, you know, birth certificates and things like that, you know, the census and all that kind of stuff, in which they're trying to adopt all those type of things now, where in ancient times you were born, you know, at the time that lightning struck the big village tree and it caught on fire, you know, that's how they knew how old you were. So you had to be a person who was a elder, elder, you know, an esteemed elder, part of the societies who had taken his reins as far as his family was concerned, and being part of the village, a wise man or woman inside of the village that had contributed to the village, who was an elder, because every old person is not an elder, you know, because you can just be an old, dumb person that, you know, you ain't no elder, you ain't got no wisdom, you ain't talking nothing. You still, you trying to wear doggone kids' clothes. You know, you got look like the 1980s. You know, you 60 years old and you got your pants down and, you know, wearing a baseball cap sideways and all that kind of stuff. So you can just be dumb and old. That's not an elder. Elders become ancestors because you have to be an elder to be an ancestor. So this person who's had children and grandchildren and contributed to the community, it's fought for the community and given advice to the adults on how to protect the village and all these different type of things. He's a contributor, or she's a contributor, has been part of the secret societies and all this kind of stuff. They would be the ones, to at a certain point, to take the black mushroom, because the black mushroom actually kills you dead, you know, not like, a death inside of the transdimensional mushroom experience, but dead, like dead from the three-dimensional five-sense reality. Your heart stopped beating and you're dead. And this happens for a few minutes. Then they put you take the mushroom, you die. They put you in water. They stimulate you and things like that. If you come back, then you have to make a report on what's going on in the land of the ancestors. You know, what are they doing? Did they send any messages back? You know, all these different type of things. You have to give a report to the rest of the elders who have went through this particular black mushroom ceremony. And if they can't wake you up, you're just dead, and they bury you and give you a nice big funeral. You stay there. So the black mushroom is becoming that whole ceremony or that whole thing is becoming rarer and rarer because the people now who are in their late 60s and 70s and stuff like that are children of the 50s, the 1950s, when these type of things were switching over into modernity, into modern times. It's just like Senegalese wrestling, what they call, when I first started, they called it Lambiji, Budi. And in all the way up until even the late 60s, they had people who knew the old Lam, which was dislocations, pinning, projection throws, strangulations, and things like that. But so many people were getting killed that they switched it over to modern times and had taken all those things out. It's no different than the difference between old jiu-jitsu and judo, because judo took all of the dangerous techniques out of the jiu-jitsu and made it judo. It went from jiu-jitsu to judo, and they took all the dangerous stuff out, supposedly. So when you see things like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and things like that, that is, they named it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but it is actually judo that Helio Gracie and his brother learned from the Japanese guy who came to Brazil. It was judo that he was. He wasn't a jiu-jitsu practitioner. He was a judo practitioner. So it's basically judo that was practiced, and it's the same thing with the Lambiji and the Budi. They took all of the dangerous techniques out and made it a modern sport. But up until the 60s, there were still the old men who knew and who had competed in the old form of the martial arts. So no different than people who were blacksmiths in the village, people who were healers in the village, all of these different type of things. The young people wanted to go to the city, make money and get a Mercedes, and then eventually come to, according to what your language was. If you were French, you wanted to get to Paris because that was heaven on earth. If you spoke English, you wanted to get to Great Britain because that was heaven on earth. So on and so forth, according to what the area was colonized by. That's where the younger Africans wanted to get to. They wanted to get to Portugal, if they were in Angola, and whatever it was, they wanted to get to those places. So the mushroom families, with the Fang people and others, there was also the Iboga, which was in Gabon, the Bwiti. But it goes back further than the Bwiti. It goes back into the old Congo system of where the Aba or the Abattoir or the Bambudi, these people who were the short people were the ones who had the Iboga. And the Iboga was to contact the ancestors, to be able to go into the realm of the ancestors so that the people in the village would know that their ancestors were still alive and were doing well in the ancestral realms, having a good time, having food and things like that, they were able to go and see face to face, go and see my mother, go and see my father, go and see my grandmother, my grandfather. Have them introduce you to their fathers if you never saw them, and introduce you to their fathers' fathers, that when you came to the ancestral village, they would come out and greet you, just like when back in the 80s when we would go to West Africa and we would go for our martial tours that we were having in Africa, we would go to villages that weren't normally villages that people would go to. You know, people will go to Ghana and things like that, and they'll go to Accra and they'll visit Kumasi for a day. But they're basically in Accra and they're in the Novotel and they're in the Hilton and stuff like that. And, you know, you might as well be in New York or St. Louis or wherever if you're going to go someplace and be in the doggone hotel with air conditioning and drinking martinis and sitting around the pool and all that kind of stuff. And then during the day you go out and see little sights, and you're not staying with the people. You're not out in the village. You're not out in the bush. You're in a bus, an air conditioned bus, looking out the window at the people. So when we would go, we would be in the village, out from the cities with the people. You want to go in, you get in the Lowry bus, and you know, people with chickens and goats and all that kind of stuff, and you know, you're packed in there, and you know, you ain't riding on this big monster bus with the toilet and everything in there. You know, if you're going somewhere far, they'll make a stop, and you go to the side of the road and pee in the bushes or pee in the grass. This is where you would be with the people. And the thing about African villages are that many of them who still adhere to the old ways, even the villages that are Muslim, you know, you would go to the Muslim villages, and many of the women would be bare-breasted, and many of the women would be dancing, you know, the traditional dances and things like that. And they still had the masquerades and the ancestors and things like that. So, you know, if you're in Darmusti or if you're in Senegal and you're going to Touba, you know, the Muslims there are not the same Muslims that you would see going to Hajj at, you know, and making their 7 circuits around the Kaaba, you know. It was Ahmadu Bamba, you know, and Touba, the Grand Mosque. And, you know, they do the pilgrimage there to Touba just like the other Muslims do the pilgrimage to Mecca. So those who adhere to the old ways, African villages are fractal. Inside of the village, you have an ancestral altar. And inside of the ancestral altar, there is a little exact copy of the village that you stay in, the regular village. You know, if it got the mosque, or if it's got the goat shed and the drum house and all that kind of stuff, it'll be made inside of that ancestral altar in exact miniature of the regular village, the macro village that you're living in. You'll have all the houses and things like that in that little village in the ancestral house. And what they say is, inside of the ancestral house where you have the little village, in the exact spot that you have the ancestral house, in the little, in the ancestral house where you have the ancestral house that you're before, there's a little ancestral house inside of that makeup of the village that's a miniature. It has the same ancestral house in that has all of the same pieces, all the same houses, the drum house, the goat place where the goats be, and all that kind of stuff. They have it inside of that. But then, inside of that little village, in the exact same spot, you have the ancestral altar, and it goes all the way down into the quantum realms, and then this village is where the ancestors live, and that's where they go and pour the libations, and that's where they give the food. And while you're giving the food to the ancestors and pouring the libations, inside of the little house, there's a little spirit of the village, that is the macro village, and you all are inside of that pouring the libations to that. And then when you get down so far, you can meet the ancestors inside of the spiritual altar. So the spiritual altar is a fractal system that goes all the way down into the quantum realms. That's why even the women, the way they braid the hair, where it's fat at the top and it goes all the way down to where it's little at the end, those braids go all the way down into the subatomic realms. They're invisible, but they hook into the subatomic realms all the way down. That's why when, I don't even know if I'm going to get into this because people will be calling me, stuff like that. They take...
Give it to them. When
they would braid, when their mother passed, they would braid some of their mother's hair and their grandmother's hair into their braids. And then when she passed on to the land of her ancestors, the daughters would take braided hair from their grandmother and their mother and braid it into their hair. And on down the line, that the women always had hair from their ancestors, from their mothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers and things like that. They would braid that into the hair, and that's what the braids was. The female ancestral line, the mitochondrial DNA line, braided and connected all the way into the subatomic realms to where they had the connection in their head of the ancestors. This was when the system from the different families was one. You know, that's like when the Yoruba say the ori, the head, the orisha. The orisha is not an external thing. The orisha lives in your head. And they call it something different than someplace else, but they did it in different places because many times you had different family groups, you know, that danced different, that ate different food, that put themselves in certain environments so that they could be able to connect more readily with their ancestors. But the old people, the old deep people, just like what anthropologists call the black medicine. In different languages, you call it different, but there's a black orifice, orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. It is a black powder of which they brought here from Fae or wherever they came from. They had their own black powder, and there's a red powder also, and there's a white powder, and there's ash, of which they brought from different solar systems to be able to have quantum connections with those planets so that they could communicate with the ancestors from different solar systems. And so I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'll just say from one, they brought that black medicine from those different solar systems and brought it here. And what they do is they take some of the original black powder. They have the formula how to make it. They make it and they put the black powder in the new powder, and that synergizes it so that it's the same thing. And they've been doing that for millions of years, putting that black powder in the new. And that's the powder that they use inside of the cuts that they had, so that each person was connected to the ancestors, so that they could call upon the ancestors and make the connection, because they had the connection of the original black powder. And the original black powder are those beings that lived in other solar systems, and part of it was their bodies burnt in the fire, cremated. And that ash was mixed with other herbs and other powders and medicine and sacrifices or all that kind of stuff. And they brought it with them here so that you're actually putting inside of your bloodstream a higher connection of the ancestors from a different solar system. So that's why when you see those cuts from the old African National Geographic stuff, when they had the deep starification, when they had these symbols and things cut into the body, or they put the little cuts that are bubbles that keloid up, and they are, all over the body. The women on the breast and on the arms and things like that. They use all that stuff for. The women were taught how to use those things sexually to please a man. Those bubbles, rubbing them along the penis and rubbing it along his neck or something like that. And the same with the man, utilizing those different scars to be able to, have, a higher form of pleasure. But it was also sentient. It was an artificial intelligent powder, like smart dust that they're talking about now. It's the same thing. Michael Jackson, in Remember the Time, when Iman and Eddie Murphy were sitting on the throne as the, Pharaoh and Pharaoh, whatever, Lady Pharaoh and all that kind of stuff. I know it's Nasut Bitty and the other one I can't think of right now, but I know what it is. But I'm saying it for everybody so they know what I'm talking about. The Pharaoh and the Lady Pharaoh as Eddie Murphy and Iman. All the magicians came out, and one was juggling off with his head, another one came out with a duck or something like that. You remember, if you haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube and see it. Remember the Time. Michael Jackson came out and threw this black powder on the floor. That's what they were talking. That's what that they were showing. I don't know who showed it to them or the reason why they knew to be able to do that, but that's the black powder we're talking about. It is the bodies of aliens burnt down to charcoal with the other herbs and secret plants and fungi put in it. Part of it is mushroom spores inside of this black powder. So it goes into the bloodstream and things like that. So it's synergized into the old world, the old systems of knowledge, the artificial intelligence, where you talk to this powder. They would take the powder and put it in your hand and tap the side of your hand. It was so fine. It was like the Ormus that they had back in the early 90s and things like that, where they would take and put a pile of it like a cone in your hand and tap the side of your hand, and it was so fine, you would see it going smaller and smaller and smaller, going inside of the body. Much of it was war medicine. Put that medicine in the bloodstream, and you call a song, and the hand becomes a serpent, or it becomes the claw of a falcon, or the foot of the Nile crocodile, or the beak of the crane, and things like that. And you call its name, and it manifests inside of the arm and is used martially, because you had all of the different animal systems that were in the areas of Africa that was part of the fighting systems. The Black Panther, the panther, that before you see it, you're already dead. There's another little cat about the size of twice the size of a house cat, and this cat is so fast that once you see it and you blink, by the time you open your eyes, it's no longer there. It's already on your neck, suffocating you. And we would go out with the hunters and things like that. And my teacher, he would go out, and they would be hunting like the Calabas monkey and things like that at moonless nights, out with them hunters and things like that, or go to the water hole, these were just stories to me of what they did when they were young, which was like the 30s and stuff like that. You know, they would go out at night to the water hole, and all the animals would be out there. And the chief of the chief of the baboons would be talking to the chief of the leopards, and the chief of the leopards would be talking to the chief of the chimpanzees and things like that, and they would all be around the watering hole. And the chief of men would be out there talking to the different animals and things like that, and they would all have meetings out there at night. And if there was a problem, they would have battle. You know, and even in my time, when we go out deep into the village and things like that, and when they get there and they welcome you into the village and stuff like that, and you got to drink, you know, the village drink, which is like milk straight out the cow with some herbs in it. You know, milk comes smoking out the cow titty, and they bring you a big glass, and you're like, boy, this sure is great, because you can't insult people and stuff like that. But they go out and tell the animals that we have strangers in the village and not to eat them. And then they tell you where to go. They say, don't get off this path. You know, you come out, you pee over there, but don't go over there, because if you go over there, you dead as Abraham Lincoln. Stay on this side. Don't go off the path. Walk this way. As a matter of fact, when it get dark, close the door and y'all lay down and go to sleep, because that's all you can do anyway, because ain't no lights out there. So the communion with the ancestors, you know, when my teacher passed, I spent 3 moonless nights in the ground in the crypt with him, and him giving me the last teaching that he was going to give me on earth before he passed on fully into the land of the ancestors. Dark, no moon, by yourself, in the ground, in the crypt, with him. So the commitment to the high dose ain't this play thing where you got knowledge from reading the book, and now you on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and you trying to tell somebody something about what you know, and you don't know a damn thing. You just read a book, and you think you know. No. And then you can arrogantly say what's real and what ain't real. You don't know what's real and ain't what is real. Spend 3 nights with a dead person in the crypt with them, down in the dark underground, and tell me what's real and what ain't real. Tell me what death is and what death ain't. So the ancestors, you access the ancestors through high-dose hallucinogens, psychedelics, entheogens. You take your mama's picture. You don't have to, but that's just something that would be part of what you want to personally ritualize if you want to. You know, because like I said, the ritual without the entheogens is sterile. Just like yoga without soma is sterile. Just like martial arts without your power practice is sterile. You have the trappings of it, but you don't have access to true power. You don't have access to true knowledge. You don't have access to be able to call the ancestors in your blood, to be able to get the ones that you miss. Why you walking and the bullet comes and all of a sudden you bend down to tie your shoe and the bullet passes you by. Or you're walking out there and you slip and somebody swung a bat at your head. That's all the ancestors. They ain't going to do it for you. They give you a nudge a fraction of an inch here, an inch there, and things like that, because they are here with us, because they live within us, and they are also in our environment, and we pour the libations, call their names. I set up excursions to the ancestors all the time on high dose. And yes, I believe in physical immortality. The reason why we're not all immortal, the reason why we die is because we say that's what we're going to do. Ain't nothing in life set but taxes and death. You got to die. You know, everything you heard about death since you were, older people talking about it is, well, you got to die. And then eventually you say, yeah, well, one day you got to die. You don't have to die. They're putting stuff together now with longevity. And I mean, immortal in the sense of longevity, not immortal in the sense of forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, eternity, because, even beings who are technologically greater, have greater advancement, who may live 70,000 years or 100,000 years or a million years, that's still, you ultimately and eventually die. Then you have people who never lose consciousness and move on to the next realm. They have those Buddhists that hold on to consciousness, and you have those people who were old, that were Lakota or Hopi or whatever. The old person would go out, and things like that, and just go off into the next realm. Then you had that in Africa also. Malidoma Somé talks about it in Water and Spirit. And it talks about also reanimation of the dead bodies, where the chief died outside the village, and they went and reanimated him and walked him back to the village where he could leave his spirit, because he had to leave the spirit in the village. One reason why we don't have any knowledge and any power in the house, because we talked about houses, if you remember, the House of Windsor, the House of Fraser, the House of Grosvenor, the House of the Medicis, the House of Ely, is because you don't have any gates in your house, because you've given that away. As a matter of fact, they took it because you don't have nobody born in your house. When a baby is born in the house, they come through and leave a portal in the house. And when grandma died in the house, she puts the other end of the portal in the house. So you have life and death existing in the house. That's why you have ancestral houses. That's why you have the houses where people have died and people have been born. You have laughter. You have the sounds of babies. You have you have the sounds of babies in the house. The ancestors hear that. They hear the sounds of new babies in the house and things like that. But we don't have people born in the house because the doctors took that away to make money. You don't have people die in the house because the funeral home people, the morticians, took that away. They used to bury people. They used to have the funeral and the wake in the living room, and the people are, you see, they sit out in the house, and people come through the house and view the body and all that kind of stuff. Then when you get finished, they bury you under the front porch. So you come out in the morning and you pour libations right out the front door, or they're on the west side of the house. It didn't end with Kemet. You bury people on the west side of the house, the West Bank. The side of the Nile, that's the land of the dead. Same thing, the west side of the house. That's where your little graveyard is. We go out and pour libation to grandma and great-grandpa and the rest of them, and everybody at the same spot. That's why they push you from your power. But there's ways to regain it, but we want to be modern. That's what I'm talking about, the organic singularity. Accessing the power of the ancestors. They have the knowledge. We have a way to contact them, to be able to connect with them. I think I told the story about the drum, the djembe drum. You know, you get guff for saying it and stuff like that. Women ain't supposed to play that drum, but women get angry because we're supposed to be able to do everything a man can do. You got a problem with men because, number one, you didn't have too many men in your life, and you're not women. You're females. You can't take that away because that's something that's there. And what happens then is that men don't become men because that's all a construct. Man and woman is a construct. That changes over time, over millennia. But male and female, those are divine principles. And the male principle and the female principle are the standards of life. Now, you put anything else in between that you want to put, but you can't get rid of that. And as I said before, I think last week when I talked about sperm wars, when you argue with a woman, you ain't arguing with the woman, you're arguing with the last man she was with.
Ooh.
Because that semen goes into the DNA, as I said before. That's why the doggone babies, you can have a second husband and have a baby that looks like the first husband because he didn't included his DNA into the woman. And you argue with him. You argue with his quantum mechanics. If women knew half the responsibility they had, it wasn't because that nobody was perpetuating nothing on them. All that toxic masculinity and all that patriarchy and stuff like that, that's all the Catholic Church. That wasn't no place else. That's all that Catholic Church stuff. The homosexual wizard. Rome. Look at doggone Ben-Hur. Not the new Ben-Hur, the old Ben-Hur. The old Ben-Hur is when they took Ben-Hur and put him on the ship, he saved the Roman, and the Roman adopts him, gives him a new name as his son. Now, they used Charlton Heston because he didn't have no son already. The whole wizard thing with this is that that's how they jumped body to body through time. It is through delivering the semen into the person and becoming the new body. It's the same thing that they had in the X-Men, the X-Men movie Apocalypse. Apocalypse was jumping bodies, time. It was in Stargate, where the guy that they called Ra had all them children around him. That's the same thing. That's the same thing the Catholic Church doing. The little acolytes. He said Ra was jumping bodies because the human form was so easy to fix and get into. You're taking the information from the hard drive and putting it in another computer. When your phone is old, you got the Samsung 7. They just came out with the Samsung 10S. When you go to Sprint or when you go to Verizon with the old phone, they take the new phone out. It ain't got nothing in it. And they go to the cloud, and they take all the information from your Samsung 7, your pictures, your different programs that you have in there. You may have Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, and they take it and they put all the information from the Samsung 7 into the new Samsung 10 S Plus. You throw the old 7 away, or they take it and scavenge parts out of it, or you take it and put it in the drawer. It's still there, but it don't work because it ain't got no internet and stuff on the chip. I mean, it ain't got no phone information on the chip. You can still use it on the internet. But what they would do was they would take, when they got old, and they would take a young boy and adopt him and give all of his property, all of his money, everything to the young boy. They would download that semen into the young boy. They would die and resurrect the quantum energy from that semen into from the boy. The boy is the Samsung 10S Plus, and the old man is the Samsung 7. So he puts his consciousness into the young boy. That's the Catholic sorcery. So how do you access the ancestors? Is through the hallucinogens. Mushrooms can do it. Iboga can do it. Ayahuasca can do it because it's DMT too, if you can get enough in you, instead of these tourist doses that people go from, Oregon to Peru and drink a tourist dose of ayahuasca, grandmother ayahuasca, as they say, and sit around the campfire and sing songs. But you have to talk to some of the people who make their own ayahuasca and drink it and drink a lot of it. and they fighting aliens and demons and communing with the gods and all that. And other than okay, I took some ayahuasca, I saw a jaguar and a snake in the jungle and some pretty colors, and now I feel better. I'm not as confused as I used to be. My anxiety is gone. I'm healed from my trauma of when I was a little kid, and Johnny Simpson from across the street hit me in the head with a baseball bat, and all of that kind of stuff. You got to take this stuff at high dose, and they're not doing it, and they're not suggesting it because, number one, they're the ones who are the experts in the field are not doing it. They're faking the funk. And then when they see me, Kalindi is extreme. No, Kalindi wants to know. It ain't fun. Well, I had a bad time. I didn't, it wasn't pleasant. It's not supposed to be pleasant. Grow up. You're a grown-ass man. What you talking about? I didn't have no fun on this trip. Fun? What the hell are you talking about fun? This ain't fun. It ain't for fun. If you're looking for fun, don't do this. If you're looking for hard work, if you're looking for something that will build the fiber in your spirit, that you can face anything, laugh in the face of death, then this is what you got to do. It's practicing death. DMT is practicing death. Woo! On high doses of mushrooms, I died every which way there is to die. I don't even know if there's another way to die. I've been smothered, crushed, cut, dropped off of buildings, dropped off of cliffs, all these different type of things, and I ended up saying, damn, I can still talk, so shoot. What they can throw at me that I can still talk and think, and I can see out this right eye, Why can I see out the right eye? Because the left one was plucked out. Had to put another one in. Tree fall on you, struck by lightning, dropped from a plane, slipped in the bathtub, run over by a truck, a car, a motorcycle, 500 or 600 people running out the stadium, but never died, because you can't die. That's one of the things that emptiness didn't show you. The only thing impossible in the multiverse is if you are a soul that is manifesting a spirit, the only thing impossible is for you to die, because you were never born. Trying to explain to this boy on Facebook. He trying to tell me, he's 22 years old, trying to tell me about God. Saying what?
I saw
you know, and he said he was raised a Buddhist. He ain't no Christian, but he's trying to tell me about God. I said, you're a Christian. It's all of them Christian. It's all the same thing. It's all the same system. You got God at the top. You got some angels or some type of beings that are demigod. Then you got the whole hierarchy of three-dimensional five-sense life. You know, you got your elders, you got your adults, you got your children, and you got your unborn coming into the world. Coming in one side, going out the other side. Now, you can call it what you want, but it's still the same thing. Something's bigger than me. I'm a little nothing. I'm part of this great thing that's all connected to everything else. No, it ain't all connected to everything else. You got standalone systems that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on here. Not connected to nothing, period. It's so deep, it's so vast, it's so powerful, it's so knowledgeable that you can't get a handle on it. But even though I don't know what is, but I know what it ain't, and it ain't what these people talking about. I'm in the search room like everybody else. That's real. I don't know where I come from. You have to fight people. We come from the stars. Yeah, okay. You came from the stars, but where the stars come from? And when you find out where the stars came from, where did that come from? And on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Well, I come from my mother. That's all I know. No, you didn't come from your mother. You came through your mother. Don't mistake the oven, and then women in their arrogance being the oven. Don't mistake being the oven with the person baking the biscuits that's putting the milk in the flour and stirring it, and don't confuse the person that's putting the milk and flour, stirring it, with the person who put the seed in the ground and got the flour out, who was milking the cow. They got the milk to be able to put it in the biscuits, to be able to put it in the oven. You're the oven. You ain't the biscuit maker. You ain't the farmer. You ain't the raindrop that makes the wheat grow. You ain't the sun that gives light to the wheat. You ain't the energy in the core of the sun. So what do we do? It's a mystery. Where we come from, what we are, where we going, how we get there. All this is a grand mystery. It's the only thing going. And all the other stuff is temporary. Trump and the media hit the earth, and we all get blowed up. We all get blowed up by atomic detonations and war. We just be someplace else standing around talking about what happened. Last thing I know, I seen a flash, and we all standing here naked. So yes, high dose entheogens give you a connection to the realm of the ancestors. It gives you the ability to travel through time, to be able to access different points in time in the past and the future. Brother was saying about the quantum computer going back in time. It went back probably a billionth of a second or something like that, a nanosecond. But that shows that it can be done, but we knew it could be done anyway. They did it several times with the Large Hadron Collider. That's why all this all the Mandela effect stuff happened. It put a glitch in the matrix. It put a deja vu in your head. So did the world cease December 31st, 2012. And you flipped in a femtosecond to alternate reality, so that it was so fast, it was seamless. They did Dark City on you. Came in here and shifted all this stuff around, repaired, tightened some screws, pulled the hard drive out, blew it with some of that cold air, stuck the hard drive back in, where everybody sleep. You know, okay, Charlie, turn it back on, flip the switch, and you think you in the same world you was in before. Don't take this stuff for granted. Don't take it for granted that things are working the way you think. Because it ain't. It's that, what's the name of that book? Everything you thought you knew was wrong. And I got a book at the house. I can't find it right now. But the book is a book I've had for years and years and years. I never read it. And it's an old white guy on it. And the book the title says, Hell, I Was There. And I ain't got to read it, you know, because I use it as a metaphor. Hell, I was there. So, yes, it ain't a free ride. Yes, you got to weave your way to the realm of the ancestors. We got maps, but we didn't put the map in the transdimensional crystals nor in the Yiming Zoo. We may transfer the map from the Palantir crystal ball that we will be receiving in April and broadcast the map to those who have the transdimensional crystals and the Yiming Zoo. But you got to do some of the work yourself. You got to go in hard and deep, and you got to have the right desire. And you have to push through the gates of the Duat. So the Gods of Egypt, that movie, weighing of your heart against the feather. I just started looking at the series American Gods.
American Gods?
Yeah, American Gods, where Jehudi is weighing the hearts of people against the feather of truth. And then saying, pick a door, you know. But yes, that feather against your heart, the stuff you done did and all that, being regurgitated back into the three-dimensional 5-sense reality. And all the elder beings sitting around on their chairs. That chair thing is deep too. The stool, the chair, the throne, In Marvel, they always depict him before he got in the Avengers behind Thanos, sitting out in space in the chair. They sit out there in the chairs unless they like them gin, and they sit on carpets. You got your house, and you got your chair. That's why. Look at the chair, or look at the square of Wazir or Ansar or Osiris. The chair is the house. It's a square. The fourth part of the circle. Circle circumscribes your existence inside of the sphere because you're living in a bubble of unlimited possibilities. It ain't nothing outside of that bubble because you create reality femtosecond to femtosecond inside of that bubble. That's why in space you can go out as far and see a variety of different things forever because you're creating it as you go. Now you have sentient, malevolent programs, parasites floating in nothing outside of that bubble that can be encountered. But there ain't nothing. If you stick to your guns, stand up and look at what is out here and face it. From old literature that they reprinted, that they rewrote. That's why you think in the Bible you got to put some sensible stuff in there. Why do you think in the Bible they said, don't give them the fruit of the tree of knowledge? Oh, shit, you gave it to them. Now they know.
Game over.
Keep them from the tree of immortality because then they'll be like one of us. You don't want to be like one of them. You're older than them. You're more powerful than them. That's why once you get deep into the multiverse, that's why they run from you. Walking through darkness and they scurrying into holes. Want to try to make you give over your power. The power that you don't even know you have. I fell so long, it was 1,000,000 years falling. And when I hit the ground and they came up out of the ground and they said, we'll give you everything. We'll give you money. We'll give you women, we'll give you power, we'll give you anything that you want if you but kneel. I said, well, Holmes, I'm going to handle this myself. I know what I got. You know what I got. And I'm not going to give it up for a little bit of money. A little bit about what you think I think power would be. I've had women who loved me and women who still love me. I have money. I'd like to have more. But if I don't have more, it don't matter what I'm going to get more. What am I going to have more? What? I'd like that 70-inch TV, 72-inch TV in my bedroom. But shoot, I got a 50-inch TV in the living room. What difference do it make that I have a 72-inch television in my bedroom? What am I get? Another car? I'd like to have a Tesla.
Me too.
And if I wanted one, I could get. And if I wanted one, and I could get one if I wanted to. But I got a car sitting in the driveway. I can't drive but one of them at a time. And whether I go in the Tesla or whether I go in the old Nissan or Volvo or whatever it is, I'm still going to ride and get there. I have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. What you going to offer me at this point in time that I'm going to give over my soul for? I ain't shutting up. Ain't got to shut up. I'm saying what I want to say. I'm saying what I want to say. What you gonna do? Nothing you can do. If they was coming, they have come. But the things they send, when you get out there, they shrink away. So I verified it for myself, who I am and what I can do. And people need to start doing that for themselves. I can't do it for you. Ain't no magic pill. Ain't no wisdom that I can impart that is going to help you. All I can say is take it. Don't be scared, even though you're scared, because true courage is in the midst of fear, still stepping forward. Okay, I don't know what's down this hole, but I'm going to keep stepping forward and I'm going to keep going. And anything comes that ain't acting right, I'm going to start swinging, and I'm going to keep stepping, I'm going to keep moving forward, and I'm going to keep swinging. Like I told everybody on the way out of the 9th session that we had, I said, I'm from the Grandma Clunk School of Martial Arts. Walk on over, Cletus, but you're going to limp back. Walk over, you're going to limp back. We got a chance to make this thing right for the family. And you ain't going to vote your way into it or out of it. You ain't going to pray your way into it or out of it. You got to stand up and do it yourself. We're already, the AI is exponentiating itself. We already have artificial general intelligence. That's artificial general intelligence through the blockchain. We got specific AI intelligences like a chess program, a Jeopardy program, a car program, this program, or that program in artificial intelligence. And with the blockchain and the speed of the new technology, if it wants to play chess, it can play chess. But when somebody says you want to do this, it can do that because at the speed of light, it can insert that narrow AI into the slot to be able to do anything. Next manifestation into the areas of our existence is artificial superintelligence. And superintelligence is you can't turn it off. You can't outthink it in your present mind. It can build from the virtual realms. It can influence neural pathways. So it's here. And if we don't move forward into this next phase of what we are becoming, the transhuman phase, and transhuman phase can last just like the exponentiation of the artificial intelligence phase. It can last a nanosecond. And a nanosecond may be too slow. Once we hit a tipping point, and in a femtosecond, we are the Superman, the Superwoman, the super entity. And I'm talking about cosmic, galactic, infraparticle, below the Planck length, beings, unbound, Prometheus unbound, stole in the fire of the multiverse, be able to go anywhere without moving, without going any place. That's why most of the super intelligences, you don't see them, because they don't go no place. They just sit and experience everything all at the same time without going no place. When I come and visit some knuckleheads down here, now there are lower mid-level entities that use the crafts and stuff like that to fly around and to pop in and out of dimensions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they do that, but the craft is your consciousness being able to access every point, every place, in all space and time, all at the same time, to be able to experience everything all at the same time. And then understand that there are things beyond and past that, older systems that are older than time, older than this universe, older than the concepts of which we build reality on. And we have the ability to be able to move into and through these things, to be able to move with, to be able to access unimaginable scenarios and places of power and things like this. Be able to hang out with be able to hang out with the real folks. And our ancestors being us right along with us. And they're experiencing inside of your experience. Some and many are actualizing what they believe reality to be. You got some folks sitting up in heaven on the side of Jesus, singing, drinking milk and honey, and God sitting up as a big light bulb with hair and all that stuff, and they singing, holy, 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 and God, you great. But that get boring real quick. Like, damn, we've been, 200, 300,000 years sitting there singing holy, 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 and white standing on clouds, holy, 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 holy. I'm tired of holy, 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 Okay, wait a minute. Let's move this curtain back and see the man behind the curtain. They sitting back drinking Hennessy and laughing and, looking at the football game and stuff like that. And these folks standing out there before the throne singing holy, holy, holy and drinking milk and honey. Until that fades away. And they're stuck out there in the dark talking about what the heck is going on. Okay, where I'm at. So the realm of the ancestors, the realms of the ancestors are the realms of possibility that we can access and project our memories of those who we love and care about into those places as they project their spirits to meet us there. My wife, who passed, we had a place that we would meet in entheogenically while traveling together in the same bed on high doses of mushroom. 25, she take 25, I take 25, and we go to our spot. We built it piece by piece. And so now when I go and I take the 25 grams, that is our specific time and our place, just like we laid in the bed and took the 25 grams and went to that place. I go to that place and she's there, and we sit down and we talk and we laugh and we cloak one another, and it's our time in our spot that we made in the multiverse. That is our spot, that there's no other way to access this other than me and her. And we can bring to it or let it be the way we want it to be. So you build places for those who are with you in time that you can't get with, that you can't get with anybody else. And the elders in the spirit realm told me that, if you want to see her, go to y'all spot. We don't know where it's at because it's y'all spot. Y'all the only one know how to get there. He said, yes, she's passed. And yes, it don't make up in the regular world for being able to call on the phone or go to the grocery store together or look at a movie and things like that. But we got our spot. And there's no way that I could, if I wanted to, get away from her or she get away from me. They told me, they said, you can't lose this woman or get away from this woman. That no matter how far you went, no matter what you went through, no matter, she ain't going nowhere. And I'm not going anywhere and leave and desert her. And although we get together in the multiverse, well, I'm not even going into that. The other thing is that I could say, but you have to do it yourself.
I guess you're gonna have to. I guess you're gonna have to come up with that. I guess you're gonna have to come up with that relationship class you was telling me about, because a lot of us are so splintered and single, out here, like you said, looking for the fast life and what I call thinking short term. We're not even coming through with that type of visionary process when we think about real long-term relationships, like how they trying to program us now, or what the glitch in the matrix is. 5 years is a long-term relationship, or 10 years. Somebody hit 50 years, or extending past death. Like what you just got finished saying is, y'all prepared a place, for both of y'all to be ancestors and still spend time together into eternity. You know what I'm saying? That's a real place, not no, white Jesus with, what you said, singing holy, holy, holy. Like people's minds ain't even really being programmed that way right now. So, yeah, we're gonna have to get you in that.
It's about recognizing family and who they are, and understanding that you can't get away from each other. Your family, you're moving through this thing together. It's sometimes you be leaving out of places and pushing your family through the door. Okay, you go ahead. Next one, get up there and get to the door and hold this person's hand and don't lose them on the way to the next spot and all that kind of stuff. And you stand there trying to make sure that everybody get through. It's a rare understanding, and we have to go ahead and be courageous in getting these mushrooms, learn how to grow them, setting up your time to be able to do them at the dosages you want to do it, and having enough to be able to do the trips and things that you want to do, because that's why the mushrooms are here, because we send them here ahead of time. The formulas to be able to propagate and perpetuate them have been decoded. So we have our mushrooms like we have our car. We want to go to Chicago, we get in the car. But you got people who, you got people, you get in the car and drive to Chicago. You got people, well, I'm sensitive, I don't need mushrooms, I don't need a crutch and, those type of things. No, this is what they're for. This ain't no crutch. This ain't unnatural. It ain't going against your sensibilities of what you think you are and who you think you are. This is how you do it. You get on the train or you get in the car, you get on the airplane, and you go to Chicago. You don't say, well, I'm naturally a traveler, and I'm going to just sit here and be in Chicago because I vibed up on it. No, we made cars so that we go to Chicago. Same thing with the mushrooms. Mushrooms are here for when you want to travel and things like that. You go to the freezer, you get some mushrooms, you prepare yourself by eating them, and lay down in the bed in the dark. And if you have the purity of concentration or the familiarity with being able to stick to where you want to go, the mushrooms will drag you along into the realm of the ancestors or wherever you want to go.
Hold on, Bob. I got to make this announcement. Hold on to make this announcement. Don't hang up, everybody. The call-in number is 917-889-3803. If you hang up, you will not get the very end of the show. You will not be able to call back in. Do not hang up. And if you do get knocked off, don't call me talking about call you on three-way. You have to catch the rest of this on the replay. So if you're on the line right now, you're in. If you need to ask a comment, question, or feedback, go ahead and press 1 so we can get you in line now. But do not hang up because you need to be able to hear it on the computer. If you're on the computer, please call in 917-889-3803. Go ahead, Barbara.
Look, is it 10 o'clock already? Is it 10 o'clock already?
I know you don't mess with the cannabis, but sometimes the time fly by so fast for you. I say, man, he must got at least one of them old 1969 pen joints over there, because you just be flowing and you just think it's like 20 minutes. But yeah, it's 10 o'clock.
Well, I mean, I use the cannabis oil, and and that doggone cannabis oil or them edibles and stuff like that, it gets you too. I don't know if I said this during the first one or whatever, but I had some cannabis oil that sister had given me, and she said take a quarter of a teaspoon of this oil because it's powerful. And I'm saying, well, I left it in the refrigerator for a few days because I was using it for my wrist and pain management on my leg because I felt it hurt my leg. So I went up and got a tablespoon. I just took a big heaping tablespoon and ate it, and forgot I did eat it, and it didn't kick in right away. 20 minutes I should be feeling something, an hour I should be feeling something. So I just forgot I had done it, and I rode somewhere to somebody's house or something, talk stuff like that. When I'm coming back, I'm riding on the freeway, but I'm doing like 15 miles an hour. I'm saying, why is these people, it took me like 2 hours to get home, and it's only like 20 minutes. I'm riding down the freeway. Luckily, I didn't run into the state police or something, and I'm riding down the freeway doing about 15 miles an hour. People blowing at me and stuff. I'm like, what is all these people blowing at me and driving so fast for? Because I'm... I ended up finally making it home. I'm like, oh yeah, I took that cannabis oil. It had all stuff, had everything slowed down. I'm riding down the freeway at 15 miles an hour, But but no, I like I said, I use the cannabis oil to for management of pain on injuries and stuff like that. Training, sore muscle and stuff like that. But so do we have any questions from the audience or whatever?
Absolutely.
We have some folks who want to chime in.
Oh, the lines already, they've been waiting. But anybody, we got a couple of people have already pressed 1. If you have comments, questions, or feedback, you want to chime in, please lock and load in now. Also, if y'all want to, before I even do that too, we're going to go ahead and start this birthday drive. Baba Kalinde, his birthday's coming up, everybody. Team Pisces is in the building, all right? So his PayPal, I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, he's a world traveler, and he got to have sandwiches on the way. He got to have shrimp and lobster on the way if that's what he wants to partake in, or alkaline water. But what is it? Is Kalinde EE at Hotmail? That's your email address?
Hotmail.com.
Yes, at Hotmail.com.
Kalinde. Hotmail.com. No, it's not Kalinde EE. It's just Kalinde. It's just Kalinde.
So Kalinde at Hotmail.com is his PayPal, and Cash App is the $ Kalinde EE. So y'all go ahead, drop, $10, $20, $50,000 in there, whatever you can for the brother's birthday. Treat him like you want to be treated. Put somebody else's needs before that of your own. His birthday is coming up. If you were Pisces or any water sign, shoot some love over there. All my earth signs, I expect y'all to drop something in the can too. And like I said, he's a humble big brother. He takes $5 to $5 million. So whatever you can afford to give, and if you can't do it tonight, please write that down. Kalinde at Hotmail.com or Kalinde EE on Cash App, and go ahead and show the brother some love. He don't have to come on here every weekend. He does this for the family and brings us things that we don't have access to, because every week we go back and be like, man, I can't find this on the internet. I can't find this on none of his other YouTubes. So I'm very honored and humbled that he has decided, and that to listen to the universe, to meet here on this platform for us to give us this type of transference of wisdom, and it's on us on what we do with it. So yes, press 1 if you want to ask a question.
One quick announcement before that. We're looking to receive the Palantir next month. If you want to talk about it or to be able to have access to it in the higher realms, you have to email me. I did a show on it, and people are on the public portion of the Facebook Go Live, and I'm not going to answer questions on that. So you have to email me, Kalinde@hotmail.com, to be able to talk about, donating or getting access to the crystal ball. So okay, we'll take the questions now.
Okay. And if you don't know about the crystal ball, this was your first show, go back to episode 9, and the brother went in extensively about that. So if you're keeping up every week, though, you already are what's going on. Baba, one of the things I wanted to ask, the first one was, a lot of things that you talked about tonight seemed like they were coming from the movie Inception. Remember the movie Inception, when they were in the dream state and they were laying down, and when you said they talking about doing this DMT experiment where they is coming through like the straight into your brain, where they're keeping you in this DMT state, it seems like that has been just a lot of what you said was like totally lined up in that movie. Him and his Leonardo DiCaprio, him and his him and his wife, they had built a entire city or community for them to spend eternity to. And the same way, when he didn't speak her name and honor her as an ancestor, like, it had started decaying. And so I thought that was super, super interesting. And on the subject of the show itself about becoming an ancestor, I think everything that you talked about, not just communicating with them, but what we must do here on this side, we must contribute. We must stand for something. We must be of high ethical character. We must be proponents of wisdom. We can't just be derelicts and then expect for us to be honored as ancestors. I think you just did a brilliant job of just giving us conversation about things that we need to do in order to become ancestors. I didn't necessarily just want to talk about how to get in contact with them. I wanted to talk about us being ready to become the ancestors. But when you went into that piece about in a nanosecond, if we reach the tipping point, it can happen in a nanosecond where we go to the Titan realm, like in the blink of an eye. Like, I think I thought that was just like totally amazing. Okay, let me get to the first caller. Caller from 832-610. Your microphone is wide open. 832-610. Can I get your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi. My name is Robin, and I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
How are you, Robin?
Can you hear me? Oh,
yes, how are
hi. You? I'm so honored to be on this call right now. I feel so lucky. I feel like my spirit has been guiding me for the past 8 months on this intense journey of self-realization. And a month ago, I had the opportunity for the first time in my life to ingest 5-MeO-DMT or toad venom. And it was this amazing ceremony. I blasted off into these realms that you're talking about, and it was like I saw these beings. I saw my true nature. I saw God. I mean, I can't even begin to describe what I saw and what it was, but it was like it completely transformed my life. And it's brought so much peace to me, and I completely transformed my being. Just went from wanting to kill myself to literally feeling so peaceful and so loving and so appreciative for this life. And I had a week ago, I went on a peyote ceremony. And you're talking about these ancestors, and you're talking about all these things, and I feel like synchronicity has been occurring in my life. Like, all of these things that are happening have been to awaken in me and are like perfect opportunities for me to see my true nature and what my purpose is here on this planet. Mm-hmm. And that peyote ceremony that I was in, I was feeling like I had all of this healing taking place with my ancestors, generations of trauma, of abuse. And then I'm a mother myself. And, I've been questioning, like, why am I a mother? I just don't understand. I can't do this. And I would just be in these episodes, these just of total chaos and confusion. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And I remember my mom being the same way, and she passed away 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it was like it was just passed on to me, and I could feel it within my being. And it was like that ceremony, it brought about this deep healing. I mean, I was crying so intensely at what it did for me, I could feel like all of my ancestors were there, like cheering me on, like. So, and I hear you talking about like ancestors and what that means, and I feel like they kind of left this for me to deal with, for me to heal, so that my children and my children's children can live this better life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's it deals with the epigenetic trauma also through the moving through time. It's one scenario I always talk about with the Iboga in dealing with the full Iboga ceremony, because most of the clinics that deal with Iboga deal with a separate portion of the Iboga, which they call Ibogaine, and they utilize it for opioid drug addiction to be able to move you out of that particular trauma. And it can go even further back than that. It can go back into your ancestors, because many times, much of the stress that we have and much of the trauma that we have is basically the trauma of your grandmother maybe being raped, or your grandfather being hung, or your whatever the trauma is in your ancestral line. You carry that line. That's why I say high blood pressure, because of stress. You're dealing with stresses that may be your grandmother's stress that you're manifesting as high blood pressure in this life. And then also in the 80s, of course, they changed the numbers on high blood pressure so that they could get more people taking high blood pressure medicine, which ultimately destroys your kidneys. So they then can put you on dialysis, and that's why you have all these dialysis clinics in the black neighborhoods, where you don't have them in black and low-income neighborhoods, because you will have, trauma from your ancestors, and it leads into these things which the pharmaceutical companies and the medical, conglomerates can make money through, things like, dealing with, your kidneys going out and things like this, and they make money from that. So they have more patients, they make more money. So you got a dialysis machine, and I don't know how much they cost, say $300,000, and you have people in there. Once you have paid for the machine, the $300,000 and the maintenance on the machine is virtually free. So they're making tremendous amounts of money on ancestral trauma that people may have.
Mm.
So that's part of the whole thing. And what the 5-MeO-DMT frog, the toad medicine, can do is reach into that trauma and pull those stresses away through. And you may not even notice it because it may be moving so quickly. It deals with that trauma that your grandmother had, and you may not even see your grandmother or feel your grandmother, or you may see your grandmother and feel your grandmother. It will take that stress away from her by making that portion of the trauma invisible to your cellular structure and your nervous system in this time where you were manifesting it before the ceremony. You no longer manifest it after the ceremony because it's been cloaked, it's been dissolved, it's been pushed away, because it's a time machine. It's a time machine plant and a transdimensional plant. So if you were a 14-year-old in, say, back in the 60s, and you were going home from school, you was a regular, junior high school student and things like that, and you walking down the street, and Jimi Hendrix is playing, coming out of a house, and the house is a girl's house, and you like this particular girl. Well, I'm just giving the scenario. I'm not saying you personally or whatever, but say, you like this girl, and the girl is on the porch, you see her, and then you say, "Hey, Shirley, how's it going?" And Shirley says, "Hey, we're having a party, come on up." And so you go on up, and they sniffing something in their nose. Music's playing, and you want to, you like this girl, you want to impress her, so she said, "Hey, take some. You don't want to be a you don't want to be a square, you don't want to be, not in, and you try to impress this girl, so you snort, you sniffing in your nose too. And the next thing you know, you sniffing it, then you shooting it, then you left high school and you're a heroin addict. This goes on for 20 years. The driving force in your life is heroin addict, and you can't get away from it. But somebody comes with the Ibogaine and give you the Ibogaine, you go back in time, you walk in, you're 14 again, you're in junior high school, you're walking down the street, and you go past the girl's house. Now, you actually see the house, you see the girl, you hear Jimi Hendrix playing, the people are in the house and stuff like that. She says, hey, come on up. Same exact way she said it in the so-called time past, in the so-called real dimension. And you walking past and you start to go up on the porch and you say, I got this test I got to do tomorrow, so I'll pass, but maybe we can talk sometime. And she say, sure, maybe we can talk sometime. And you go on home and do your homework. Then by the time you get home and you start the first letter in your homework, you come back into so-called regular time, and you didn't the second time in the entheogenic world go up on the porch, so you never took that first snort of heroin. So when you come back into real time now, after, the ceremony is wearing off with you, your craving, your desire for heroin, all of that is gone. It is, if you had never taken heroin in your life, there's no withdrawal symptoms, anything like that, you're no longer a heroin addict because you went back in time and erased in your past this particular thing that happened. Say you're a young boy and your only child, your mother and father hadn't been out in probably a year. Y'all just been doing family things at home and stuff like that. You're 9 years old, and your uncle Sam comes to visit the family. And so Uncle Mike is a nice guy and all that kind of stuff. And your mother and father say, hey, Mike, can you keep little Sammy for us while we go to the movie? Because we ain't been out in the whole year. You're here. He likes you. You like him. You like him. He likes you. Why don't you watch him for us tonight so we can go out and have a movie? We say, sure, I'll watch little Sammy. And so the mother and father go out. And Uncle Mike tells you to go to bed. So you go upstairs, you get into bed, and you go upstairs and get into bed, and by the time you halfway